7.
All right, once again, until I stop you, kid. A single circuit will lead you right to nowhere. Mary 10.
Suppose you're wondering why I called you all here.
Ouch. An old one, and even then it was violent. I don't know what
What
was
a
going on.
lovely way to start a program.
Sorry about that.
Ain't nothing like a hanging.
Don't leave them hanging.
No. Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are
the Cinemaniacs. Welcome back.
Welcome to you, and
Okay.
welcome to you. It's been a week off.
And this time it was his fault.
And it was my fault entirely because I was watching movies far away, and we have a lot to talk about.
We have 15 of them.
Shall we begin?
Well, 14
immediately?
now because I forgot to do a clip for one. But you'll find out next week. Moving on.
It's you.
Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem inadvertently at times invite a bunch of people into their houses, and everybody who shows up seems to have a real problem with their mother.
Snack bar, where we offer a wide variety of good things to eat and drink to top off your evening.
Well, that was kind of, I'm going to make this quick because he hasn't seen it yet.
I really do.
And doesn't want to know about it.
I hear the less you know going in, the better. So I really don't want to know about this movie.
So if you want to cut to me, then you can avoid Mark because he can stick his fingers in his ears. And so I'll say a couple of things. Those of you who have been following this, you might have seen a very different trailer. The trailer that had been coming out follows Jennifer Lawrence as she's walking through a house, and we hear all sorts of wild stuff, and it looks really, really scary. This movie is not scary. It's very interesting. If you know Darren Aronofsky, it's very much in the keeping of his types of things, Black Swan and those kinds of things. But this is one of the most bizarre films I think I've ever seen. It does center around Jennifer Lawrence, who is the significantly younger wife of Javier Bardem, who is a poet, and he's trying to find inspiration. And the way he finds inspiration is through the things that happen to them and all of these strange visitors that come in. I, like Mark said, don't want to say a whole lot about it. If this last trailer that you saw, it's much more reflective of what the movie is like. A lot of slow action, a lot of them talking. Very curious, kept me going, but clearly one of the strangest movies I think I've ever seen. Moving on.
Oh, hey, I heard none of that, but
She heard none of that.
But I'm sure he's correct. Up next is a film we actually both saw at the same time yesterday, which is very unusual. Somebody should get a gold star when that happens. A young man who has a score to settle with a man from another country who did him wrong finds himself in the arms of a very tough as nails Michael Keaton working for the government secretly as the American ass. Sassin.
4, 3, 2, 1, showtime!
Check the bullet count on that one. Holy cow. Just the trailer, for Pete's sake.
There's a whole lot of dying in this
There
movie.
certainly is.
This just so you know, I mean, if you're going to go see an action movie with the word assassin in the title, you probably expect there's going to be a little violencia in there.
Right.
But it's brutal at times.
Yeah.
It is gory. It is literally take no prisoners. Very brutal. I didn't expect much going into this. I kind of hoped for a good Michael Keaton performance, and I got it. I thought he's very hard as nails in this film.
Yes.
Very, very badass in this film. The lead,
Right.
he's okay. He handles the action really well. He handles the fight scenes really well. They're shot action. If you're me, I like to actually see what's going on in an action movie. Action's pretty well rendered. Some of the hand-to-hand stuff, sadly, is a bit sloppy and a bit too close, which is a shame because you have somebody like Scott Adkins in this film, who's a really good, not very well-known action star, and you totally throw it away. And this sounds bold. It could have been me in some of those action scenes for all of anything that is displayed
Right.
very well. but a lot of them are actually shot pretty well, and there's some motor vehicle stuff and all that. So as a matinee that I didn't care too much about, I had a really good time with this. I would be, you tipped me off that there may be more of these films if this does well. I don't think this is going to do that well. I would be happy to see more of these because it was just a fun, thrilling action movie for me.
Right. Certainly able to separate, the books from the movies, but I'm very familiar with this character, Mitch Rapp. Vince Flynn has written a lot of them. Dylan O'Brien, again, as an action hero, I suppose, he just seemed too smarmy for me, certainly too young, not only for the character as I'd envisioned him or anybody else maybe who had read the books, but just to be able to do what he did. And his experience. He just seemed too young to me. Now, maybe they are planning on a series of these because I hate to say it, look how old Wahlberg is. Look how old Damon is
funny,
looking now.
I kept thinking he was if not the poor man's Mark Wahlberg, the man with a little walking around money's Mark Wahlberg. Like, I could see Wahlberg in this role, but he's too old to be that character.
Right, exactly. But I was looking for somebody that tough. For me, this whole thing felt like A movie budget with B movie people behind the controls. Didn't quite know how to get underway. You're setting up obstacles for your character, and it was like, oh, I need something. Okay, here it is. Oh, I have to chase these people. I'll take this guy's car. And it just felt too just by the numbers. So I was, and I came to see this after the day before, being thoroughly confused by Mother. Enjoying Mother, but then so I went into this thinking, well, at least we can watch some decent action and stuff like that. And I ended up being kind of disappointed. I thought this was pretty predictable, and really didn't kind of like American Assassin. Sorry.
You kind of thought the assassin was sort of like a clown in this movie.
Something like that. In fact, see how he blends in. It's only been 3 weeks. Clowns can be bad. We all hate clowns, don't we? I hate clowns. They scare the heck out of me, but they certainly scare the heck out of a group of kids and their parents and everybody else who happen to live in a little place in Maine called Derry, where you have to watch out for it.
No Showtime treat to equal the crisp, delicious flavor of hot popcorn that's bathed in real melted butter.
Ooh, scary stuff, kids.
See, I don't find that scary.
Yeah, right.
I
When
don't find
stuff's
the
jumping at
screaming,
it,
running at the camera. I don't find loud scary. I don't find special effects scary.
Right.
I don't find jump scares to be legit scary. But I still thought this was good.
I thought this was good and well done, and I was bowled over, absolutely bowled over by two performances, which I'll talk about. But I also didn't find this scary. I think it's for a couple of reasons, and I respected the fact, as a horror movie fan, that they went for the R, because boy, there's some stuff in it that is grisly and could be frightening. I think for me, it's both a part of when I was growing up and was a kid and didn't know about the world. Like Salem's Lot, vampires scared the hell out of me. And now I'm afraid of child abductions and nuclear war. So as I get older, I think these kinds of things don't scare me as much. I also thought that while I don't recall a lot of jump scares, you and I are always against jump scares in this.
There's not too many.
It felt just really kind of similar to my complaint with American Assassin, was that, something happened. We have each of these kids. Each of these kids has to experience his or her own a frightening thing that the clown in one manifestation, observes. And so it's like, okay, we see what this guy's afraid of. Then we see what she's afraid of. And then it all kind of culminates into sort of an ending, but not really. So while I thought this was really well made, I thought Skarsgård as Pennywise the Clown did a certainly passable job. There's a young actor, I think his name is Jack Dylan Grazer. He plays Eddie, who is the kid who breaks his arm. And I guess he's on Stranger Things. He knocked my socks off. I just could not believe how fascinating and what a great job this little 10-year-old actor did. He just every moment he was on screen. And I'm going to go back and pick up Stranger Things. I tried the first 3 episodes and thought it was boring as all get out. I hear not only good things about it, but that he's in it. Overall, I thought performances were really strong. And I was just kind of slightly disappointed that it wasn't as scary as I had thought.
For me, the least interesting... Yeah.
It's easy for him to say.
For me, the least interesting part of this was the clown.
Okay. When we see him so early,
you see him right out of the
it's not
gate.
Scary the rest of it.
That too, something happens at the beginning of the film to a character who quickly becomes a minor character, both in age and how long they're on the screen. And I felt like if we had spent more time with that character, their fate would have had more impact other than just a big, loud scare. See, to me, the clown in this was so overtly that I'm like, okay, yeah, I get Whereas in the original Tim Curry's, it did do that, but was more of just, it's disturbing seeing a full clown outside in the middle of the day for no reason. It doesn't always have to be crawling out of the shadows and have big fangs and all that. So anyway, I did like this though. I liked the stuff with the kids. You know, you could have not even had the clown aspect somehow, or kept him out of this, and it still would have been interesting for the coming of age story with these kids, for which a lot of people can relate to.
And are you a King fan? Okay, I'm a huge King fan, and he always creates, and people who know King, he creates these environments in his books. Stand By Me is a great example of it, and this did, I thought, a great job replicating what felt like the King world to me.
Oh, absolutely, and it's set in the 80s, simply because there's going to be a part 2, by the way, just so you know. That was a surprise to a lot of people, is that at the end it says, you know, Chapter 1, because the book is divided between these people as kids, spoiler, and these people as adults. And I thought it was smart to do it that way. The original book, it was told in a lot of flashbacks and back and forth. It makes more sense to do it this way, because if you don't know that, if you have a brain, you see something that's told in flashback, well, who's alive in the flashback? That's who's going to make it to the end of the movie. What I loved about this, one of the things I liked a lot about this, was that you feel like anybody can die at any time. So you're always on edge, and you don't know who's going to make it to the end, if anybody, really. So that adds a lot more suspense to it, and it lets the film breathe. They're not trying to cram everything into the 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think this was, which never felt long to me. It could have been longer as far as I was concerned. With that, and I would have been happier with more stuff with the kids in their homes, at school, more of a setup to what their lives are like. Again, I didn't find it terribly scary. There are people who find this incredibly scary. I mean, I was told that people were like, I don't know if literally running out of the theater.
I heard kids were, certainly younger kids were leaving.
And this isn't a movie for younger kids, by the way. This is really not a movie for younger kids. It's got a lot of subject matter younger kids are better off in life if that's a little farther down the road for them to know about. Anyway, it was good. It's surprising to me that the next part, I guess they weren't banking on this being as gigantic as it is, because I'm hearing like 2019 for the sequel, and like they haven't cast the adult characters yet. Because I'm watching this and I'm like, the reason they cast that girl who was very good is because Amy Adams is going to play her as an adult. And now I find, well, no, they haven't cast anybody yet. So half the movie, I'm trying to guess who the adult actors are going to be playing them. Anyway, this thing's a phenomenon. You really should see it, if not for any other reason, to be part of the conversation. But a lot of people really like it a lot. Some people think it's the scariest thing they've seen. I think they need to see more scary movies, but that's just me. So speaking of scary things, Reese Witherspoon is back. And she is a single mom dealing with a divorce, being a divorcee and raising some kids. And into her life come hotties, and she finds out that you may or may not be able to go home again.
So, Witherspoon she's such a wonderful actress, and she's great at comedy. She's good at drama. So this is obviously lighter fare, and it's all about, you know, her. You know, she says, she's kissing the guy at a bar, and she says, oh, you know, I'm 40, and then the guy says, ish, you know, so, and so it's an aging movie, it's a coming of age movie. She obviously, her husband, from whom she separated, kind of shows up, and it's all about these kind of silly things. Candice Bergen is a lot of fun as her mother. So this is a lightweight comedy about exactly what you see in the film, and just kind of about, it's another version of dysfunctional families trying to get together. I thought the comedy was perfectly acceptable. Maybe a few too many kind of errant sex jokes or something like that. I don't think this is rated R. I think it was PG-13. But nothing horribly offensive, but it's not going to be of any real interest to the kids. I like Reese, and so I thought it was okay.
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 I did not have time to see this due to other things that I will talk about if we have time. We probably won't. Up next, we discuss that which is available on home video. We're done.
Indeed.
We're done talking about theatrical releases for now. This is what's available on and we thank our friends. We do thank our friends at the Latches Theater in Brattleboro, Vermont for sponsoring this fine program. It is a very cool classic movie theater with some extra space, but it's pretty lovely in that main theater, and the lobby's pretty, and I probably say that every time we talk about them. Thank you, Latches.
Excellent popcorn.
And
my favorite popcorn.
Popcorn is good. I got to get back over there. Now we talk about that which is available to you and yours on the home video platform, device, or streaming service of your choice, not limited to, but including the following film that will be discussed and introed by me, even though I've never seen it because the camera's on me. So here we have an animated film based on a series of books, a very tender tale of struggle and strife and achieving your greatest potential in the form of Captain Underpants?
The underwear. Comfort, durability, and elasticity.
So, what you expect if you're fans of, if you're a fan of the Captain Underpants books, which I am, and both my kids read them and we love them. The animation is just spot on. It's great fun. It's super colorful. So, I mean, everything you'd expect from a Captain Underpants type of film, or that you've seen from the trailer, you're going to get from this. Not terribly long. I just really thought this was a lot of fun, and about, there's not a lot of specifics to talk about. It's not, super world encompassing. It's fun. And again, if you're a fan of Captain Underpants, I think you're going to enjoy this.
Does this predominantly take place during the day?
It does, as a matter of fact. But the trouble is kind of that Joel Edgerton, somewhat in the near future, it's kind of dystopic, and something has gone on with the world. You'll find out if you watch it. But he's trying to save his family and make sure everything goes okay, because there's stuff out there. One thing in particular. And the real trouble for Joel is that it comes at night.
Survival's all about staying power. So who's antiperspirant will make them the last man standing.
Okay, so this is clearly one that plays with the audience.
Yes.
I thought this had tremendous atmosphere and suspense. I like Edgerton a lot. All of the supporting people are very interesting. It starts with, obviously, there's some kind of contagion that seems to have destroyed most of the survivors and most of the people in the world, but there are a few survivors. And then there's something out there that they have to, the titular it that comes at night. So I enjoyed the whole feel of it. I had a couple of problems with it. One is we never kind of give away here, so back off and turn it down for 5 seconds. But, okay, they've turned it down. You never find out what it is, what the real thing is. You can come back. And then my other problem was, and you may remember this, I may be overly picky, but you're trying to keep everything out, whatever this thing is out. And there's this back door, which is the main entrance to where they all live. And it's locked, super padlocked and everything, and Joel Edgerton as the father has the key. There's a scene that emphasizes that. And then in the middle of the movie, the door gets opened by this kid who they invite in. They invite this family in. And somehow the kid opens the door. And they never explain how that happened. And I just found that horribly troubling, because they made such a point to say, Joel Edgerton has the key. So that really troubled me. So as much as I wanted to like this, I think it has some serious structural flaws. But it felt great. It had great atmosphere to it.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from this, was the sense of dread and the atmosphere. It's a really small cast. You're only talking about a handful of people. It really feels like this could be like a side story from The Walking Dead. Like
exactly.
Because they never get... Most of the population's wiped out. People still carry this disease. Some people apparently seem to be immune to it.
Right.
But otherwise, you're just literally holed up with these people in their house. And do they let these people who are in need into their house? And if so, what happens? So it's reminiscent of a lot of horror movies throughout the history of time. Do we let this other in? And if so, are we going to pay for that? The ending is not terribly satisfactory to me and to mainstream audiences. This is an indie film, remember, so it doesn't play by normal Hollywood narrative rules. But it is interesting, and it does interesting things with aspect ratios as you're watching it. And I was trying to figure out why that was. And as you said right before that clip ended, we share the same sentiment. I kind of want to see this again. Yeah. Now that I've seen it once, I want to watch it again and see if knowing where it's going clues me into certain things or not. So I thought It Comes at Night was pretty decent, certainly worth looking at. Not a horror movie so much as it's really more of a thriller, dramatic thriller. Speaking of drama, when you and your girlfriends, we can all relate, are out in the town whooping it up in a night of debauchery and leads to an untimely death of somebody who was not intending to be dead that night, you find out that you and your lady friends, and certainly the dead person, are having a rough night.
So did you see this?
No.
Okay. Went into this thinking, gee, here's what I'm going to have to pay for. This is where I pay my dues. And ultimately, I thought it was really kind of funny. I didn't like Scarlett Johansson. I don't think she has comedic chops. And I'm trying to think of a movie where Not that she's good.
I don't think she's that great an actress.
I don't think she's that great either, but she doesn't have the chops, and unfortunately, we were talking about Reese Witherspoon's film earlier, and Reese is so much better. I like Scarlett, and she's okay, but she's always got this kind of angry edge to it, and maybe that was the character. But I thought the Kate McKinnon, and I thought some of the supporting roles were funny, and this is kind of Weekend at Bernie's for the ladies. It wasn't nearly as non-male. There's enough in there that's just funny for anybody that you don't have to be the lady just to enjoy it. So I thought Rough Night was kind of predictable but fun enough.
This is very reminiscent, and I say reminiscent because I haven't seen this, of a film called Very Bad Things that I like a lot.
Right.
Which is essentially, this is the female version of that.
Okay.
So I thought if somebody wants to have a rough or a good night, depending, they should rent this and Very Bad Things and compare the two and send us an email at movies@cheshiretv.org, because I don't want to do that, but I'm curious to see how they
find
compare.
out what that's like.
You liked the film.
I did.
You wouldn't call it a dog.
No, not at all. But you could talk about dogs. He's just making it far too easy to lead in there. A Marine who finally ends her tour of duty doesn't want to leave her little partner behind, her four-legged partner, for that matter. And so has a lot of difficulty trying to convince the government to let the dog come along with the dog's owner and true love, who happens to be Megan Leavey.
Hi.
No, we don't.
Talk a
We
little
don't put
business.
anything. Again, did you see this?
Nope.
Okay, we're catching up on a lot of stuff that I had a chance to see. Not in any way, shape, or form a negative comment, but what you'd expect. Kind of predictable. She's really good. The dog is good. I mean, this is what I was struck with, but that going into this, I was expecting it to be, sappy and overly sentimental. There's some good action sequences in this, and you really kind of, as if we hadn't seen Jarhead and a zillion other kinds of movies, but you get a sense of what these men and women go through at the very beginning and how this bond was established between this dog and her in particular, but everybody else. So I thought, ultimately, I thought Megan Leavey was really pretty effective. And again, what you see is what you get. It's kind of especially toward the end, kind of a tug at your heartstrings kind of a movie.
Sort of the latest in the military dog movies.
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of them.
Wasn't Max? It was like a year or so ago. That was about
a couple years. I don't remember.
The German Shepherd military service dog of a dead soldier bonding with the family, or something like that.
Well, with the family and his partner, his buddy, or something like that.
I'm always looking for double features. Not that anybody really does double features anymore, but they systematically pair. So speaking of animals,
yes,
there's a raccoon in the next film.
There is indeed.
So we are back with everybody's favorite ragtag band of outer space misfits, superhero Avengers. Tape trademark. Whatever. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I see it.
I think that's a more reflective trailer than a lot of them that I've seen. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I don't know why I threw that in there.
We might have.
I wasn't crazy about this, but I loved the first one so much. You can't, if it's this great, you can't expect it necessarily to stay up there. So I gave Guardians like a 6 or 7.
I think this was less than the original, but I had a really good time with this. They're characters that are fun to be with, even though they're kept separated for a lot of the movie.
Kurt Russell was loads of fun. They have a fun little scene.
Great
baseball
soundtrack.
Yeah. See, I disagree with the soundtrack. I love the first soundtrack. It didn't. The songs they chose didn't click with me quite so much.
I don't honestly remember what they all were, but I remember liking it. Anyway, we talked about it once before, so refer to us on YouTube if you want to see us talk a little bit more about this twice.
Right.
Speaking of this movie, at least this movie wasn't based on some lame 90s TV show.
Yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen. If you want to see 4 pecs at the very least, kind of bopping back and forth all over the place, The Rock and Zac Efron happen to be trying to sort of join forces to stop an evil drug ring down in the South. While you're doing all of that and you're looking out for lots of coke, you also want to be on a Baywatch.
And a drummer for hire. What's inside a can of Old Bay? You are.
I missed this one.
Okay, well, I'm a huge Rock fan. I think he's really funny. I'm learning to... It's not that I'm learning to like Zac Efron. For some reason, I do like him, but I hate every movie that he's in, and I think he's awful. So I was hoping this would give him an opportunity to have some fun with it. This is very, very intentionally lightweight. I think in this trailer we may have even seen the scene where they both dress up like women and they're walking through, and it's that level of humor, which is okay. I found the majority of there's lots of sex jokes, clearly, and lots of physical anatomy jokes and everything like that.
That was the selling point of the original show.
Yeah,
Nobody was watching it for the plot.
But we've gone well beyond jiggle.
Sure,
and it's like male parts getting stuck in between rafters, and everybody joins around to look at it, and how do we get it out, and that kind of stuff.
That's pretty classic.
Yeah, there are 2 cameos from the 2 of the previous stars who look like they're like 900 years old, but they worked that into it. I was really disappointed in Baywatch. I went in not expecting much, just wanting to have kind of a fun time, and it wasn't even that. So maybe better luck next time.
Speaking of better luck,
yes.
I don't want to give anything away, but we both like this movie that we're going to talk about, and we both saw it like 20 years ago. This is a new Arrow Video release. This is the Arrow Video corner that you know and love. And sooner or later, Tom's going to get it right in the old picadillos there.
No!
Oh, there he goes. He designed the logo himself, and luckily it's not a little bit farther to the left on your screen. Up first, we have a film directed by John Frankenheimer. Say that 3 times fast and don't swear. Featuring Robert De Niro and really kind of like an all-star cast, where people are on the hunt for the MacGuffin, aka the package, and everybody wants the package, and who's going to live and who's going to die to get the package. Well, luckily they are modern day Ronin.
We felt we could do even better. And we have, with the Ronin 2.
Well, Zowie.
This was so much fun.
This was a great... I'd forgotten how terrific this film really is. Yeah.
Same here. I saw it in the theater, and maybe I saw it on video. Okay, so
what a great cast.
The cast is amazing. I'd forgotten everybody who was in this.
Right.
So as you're watching it, just another face pops up, and you're like,
Bean. Yeah.
That person's in this?
Right.
It's Frankenheimer, who's known for solid drama and good action, and the action is top-notch in this.
The thing that is, for me, that was so great, and I forget what we saw, because we saw this weeks ago. We've been trying to get it back on the show. We saw something else, and everything now is CG. It was probably one of the Fast and the Furiouses. And it's CG. It's interesting enough, you can so clearly tell that they're actually doing this. It's not sped up. They're driving 90 miles an hour.
And the sense of danger puts you on the edge of your seat.
Absolutely. It was so engrossing. I just loved it.
And the plotting is it's nice and twisty, turny, complex. And it's, who cares what the thing is everybody's looking for? I think they just flat out call it the package. But it's who's on whose side, twisty and turny and double crossing and the action and who's going to live to the end and the car stunts. Ugh. So it's a lot of fun, needless to say. It's Arrow, so it looks great.
Yeah.
It is loaded with extras. I don't have a previous version of this film to compare it to. This was a film that was released in the DVD era.
Right.
So obviously it's HD now and it looks good. I can't speak to how much better this looks than a previous version. I believe they've basically carried over all the extras that were created originally for the original DVD and then added more, which is cool. So you've got like 2 or 3 commentaries, tons of behind the scenes, retrospectives. Honestly, I tried. I couldn't get through all of it in time to do this show, but I thought this was a really strong release of a movie I'd forgotten how good this was.
I had as well.
So, up next, if I may.
You should.
I should, because I saw it. Up next is a new film, also released from Arrow, new British thriller about a man who is an undercover cop going into psychoanalysis or therapy to try to figure out who has committed a very strange crime. Is he in pursuit of, or is he becoming the Ghoul?
Looking kind of weird.
This is an odd one. This is Ben Wheatley, who produced movies like Kill List and Field in England and stuff. I believe that was one of his, that are kind of strange and you're never quite sure what's going on until the end. This is one of those. So a guy is an undercover cop and somebody has murdered a couple of people, and they find out this guy has very strange delusions and decided to basically infiltrate his therapist and try to find files on this murderer and figure out what happened and where he is and all that. But as the movie goes on, you start to question, is this guy really an undercover cop, or does he think he's an undercover cop?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it keeps you guessing right up to the end. And actually, it kept me guessing beyond the end, because once it was over, I turned to the friend I'd watched it with, and I'm like, what exactly happened in that? So I didn't love it, but it was interesting enough to keep me. It's not one of those movies where you're like, what is going on? It was more like, I'm really curious, and I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
And it may leave it up to interpretation what's going on, but it's interesting, and it's worth a look if you are willing to be challenged in your viewing. It's pretty well shot. It's got a strange vibe to it, kind of creepy, kind of sad. It really deals with depression in a big way. I think that's really what's at the core of this movie more than anything supernatural. It's more of somebody trying to come to terms with their mind and their demons. But I thought The Ghoul was really interesting. The title may make people think it's an old Boris Karloff movie, but it's not. So we actually have time to get to a film that has been months in the making of me talking about it. It's another Arrow video release. This is a Japanese film from the early 70s about the police and gangsters and that which intertwines the two of them, and it is imaginatively titled Cops versus Thugs.
I can't stand anymore! Shh! Sasha's still in the toilet. Hold it a little bit longer.
So this one's fun. Okay. It all comes down to, do you like or are you willing to watch 70s Japanese gangster films with subtitles? If the answer is no, then you're not going to want to watch
it's not for you.
I come and go on these. Some of them I like if they're very stylish, like the Sonny Chiba films we watched, like the Arrow video releases of Doberman Cop and Wolf Guy, which were a blast to watch. They put out 2 series in theaters long ago, but Arrow has them out, called Battles Without Honor and Humanity and New Battles Without Honor and Humanity, which are cops and Yakuza kind of dramas. They're multi-disc sets, so I haven't gotten to those yet. So we're going to talk about the single disc set right now. This was made in between those 2 series of films. It was actually made in between 2 of the New Battles Without Honor and Humanity series. And what you have basically are the Yakuza are going crazy, and all these, the city is a war zone between these warring crime families. And the cops are trying to do what they can to suppress that violence, and there's one cop who sort of is friendly with the gangsters and is trying to go easy on some of them in exchange for them kind of toning it down a little bit. So the problem for me with this film was that I was having a hard time keeping straight who was who. Okay. Are they a good guy? Are they a bad guy? A lot of names are thrown around. I was having a hard time putting a name to the face for a lot of the people. So I couldn't quite follow it the whole time. As far as the action and the badassery and the tough guy aspects of it, though, that came across pretty clearly. So it was fun in terms of just rough and tumble, how they shot stuff and some of the action sequences and just, cops roughing up a suspect and all, wonderful things like that. So ultimately, I enjoyed Cops versus Thugs, but it wasn't the kind of thing I would necessarily recommend as one of the best of the genre. It's Arrow, so again, it looks as good and sounds as good as it possibly can. You've got a retrospective interview with the producer of the film and a nice film, a little behind-the-scenes footage while they're making the film, nice little piece about the director and the trailer. So cool. It was fun for what it was, but nothing I would necessarily say is better than other things. So that's all we have time for this week. We will actually be back next week with less than 15 movies to talk about, including Kingsman and maybe some other stuff. And until then, I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are
the Cinemaniacs.